My heart is that, well, it's really about the heart, and not to sound, ooh, but here's the thing. When I do a leadership training, I actually physically have a chart of human being. And I say, now it's your goal to process your goal and strategies through this person to get these business outcomes. And every single thing about this outcome has to do with the human experience that they have with you and your management team.
We have the pleasure of welcoming JoAnn Corley today to our interview series. I'm Sumita Mariam from the peopleHum team. Let's begin with just a quick introduction of peopleHum. peopleHum is an end-to-end, one-view integrated human capital management automation platform, the winner of the 2019 Global Cody Award for HCM that is specifically built for crafted employee experiences and the future of work. We run the peopleHum blog and video channel, which receives upwards of 200,000 visitors a year, and publish around 2 interviews with well-known names globally every month. And now for our guest, JoAnn Corley is the founder of Manage Global. She has a rich experience of 22 years in helping employees learn to be effective in a measurable way. She helps mold leaders in such a way that they bring a positive impact in all aspects of a business. A well-renowned keynote speaker and author at Daily Telegraph and HuffPost, we are happy to have someone of her stature on our interview series today. Welcome, JoAnn. We are thrilled to have you.
Thank you. It's awesome and an honor to be with you today.
It's our pleasure, JoAnn. So, moving on to the first question I have for you. You had quite the journey in this particular field. Can you tell us a little bit about your interesting work as, a leadership coach?
Sure. This is such a funny interview because it talks about all my experience. So I'm going to have, it's going to tell you everybody how old I am, but that's okay. It's been an interesting journey because I've been able to work with leaders literally all over the globe. And I found some key themes that are true of most leaders. And that is they have a hard time connecting practical human behavior to getting better business outcomes. So I call it people acumen. And so sometimes they end up becoming their own worst enemy because they work against themselves because of this lack of knowledge. So my goal is to help them connect the people to the process and the profits so that they can make a better leadership impact, provide more value, and to do that in a very practical and pragmatic way so that they can even measure the financial impact of their leadership, because not every leader is effective. And sometimes they don't know their organization well enough. They're blindsided and they have blind spots. And that's usually around people and people management.
That's a great answer. And, when we talk about business results and financial rewards of an organization, it's mostly as a result of a more engaged team. And how would you go about measuring the benefit, and what sort of a direct ascribable benefit should an organization expect when implementing programs for employee engagement?
Well, I'm good. That's it's a twofold question about measuring and benefits. So I see measuring from a very practical way. In fact, I wrote an executive briefing called Show Me the Money, which actually is a description of fundamentally how to measure, because that's another challenge. You know the phrase, you can't measure soft skills? Well, yeah, you can, if you know how. And some simple areas of measurement are something like time and their ability to get time productivity, their ability to contribute, and their impact, their what I call ripple effect, and retention. That's just 4 measurements right there. And then literally you could measure those. For example, if you boosted employee productivity by 1 hour per team member, imagine how much money that would be in a year. So I call that overall measurement ROC, which is return on compensation. Because every dollar is an investment in getting something as a return in your business. So as it relates to employee engagement, I see employee engagement as applied focus that is productive to get a required outcome. And I honestly think sometimes we complicate that. I mean, it's not mysterious, you know. It is, and if you have an employee that is connected to their work, they're focused, they know they're contributing outcomes, they're going to feel higher levels of work satisfaction. And what is that going to do? It's going to increase retention. So that's a benefit. So they're more satisfied. You get to retain folks, and you know, anything that's a benefit on that level, which we call the intangibles, feeling good, you know, doing good work, can also be measured by money and finances, because it's all a ripple effect. The human quotient is all a ripple effect into, does it make your company more profitable, more profitable? And does it help a company get the outcomes? So I see every aspect of who we are holistically as a human resource. Our mind, our heart, our spirit, our willing to apply and give our talent, that is the human resource. And all of those things contribute financially to outcomes. We tie the human resource to a job description. We partner to get results that everybody feels good about. The company's profitable, the stock value is good, and then it's, as Covey says, a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And also, I was watching a few videos of your speeches where you were very keen on explaining about creativity and how important innovation is, you know, for the growth of it. So, you know, any enterprise is only as good as how innovative they are. So how would you go about an organization giving, you know, say a slot for all employees called the thinking slot, you know, where employees can think about. So how do you think organizations should go about giving the time to think and be creative, you know, for the good of it?
Yeah, it's really interesting because I wrote it, one of my blog posts is 11 reasons why every company should have a creativity workshop at least once a year. And one of the things that's interesting is that most people don't, I would say a lot of people don't understand what creativity is. So for example, I did a creativity workshop across North America for several years. And my first question was, how many of you believe that you're creative? Would you believe that the majority of people in the room, generally speaking, did not raise their hand? Except for when I was in Seattle and everybody was there from Microsoft. But other than that, you know. But so here's what's interesting. There is a misunderstanding about creativity, and leaders think that innovation is something separate. Well, it's not. Creativity is an act of the brain, and it's not for the arts. It is the way the brain works to problem solve, is the way the brain works to imagine. And you have to imagine something new to get something new. And so in order to be able to do that, you have to have spaces and places in the workplace for people to take a break. It's very difficult to become creative under stress, negative stress. Places to activate their imagination. You know, I help some companies even set up little areas for, for paper and crayons and things to play with and becoming childlike, because it really activates the imagination. And companies really need to set up places for people to take a break and daydream. Daydreaming is positive. You know, you can be at your work daydreaming and just tell your boss, I'm working, you know, because it's all about letting your brain rest and being able to activate your imagination, to evoke your conscious and your subconscious mind to problem solve, you know, and you know, taking in new information, sleeping on it. And that activates new ideas. We call it ideation. So it is an integral part of, in fact, I wrote, I think for ASTD some years ago, an article on innovation and employee engagement is the power couple. Because if you're innovating, you're very engaged. Your heart, your mind, your spirit is very connected to creating something to get an outcome. And so creativity is directly, and innovation is directly related to employee engagement and easier management and better problem solving and agility, you know, responding more, being more responsive to the marketplace. It's all tied together. If leaders understand that, allow it and champion it, that's really the goal. And you know, that's the challenge. A lot of leaders don't believe they're creative. They don't even understand it. So And one more comment on that. Several years ago, Yahoo, no, it was the IBM Institute for Leadership, surveyed leaders, I think it was 1,500 leaders, about what they believe is the next new leadership competency. Believe it or not, it was being creative.
Yeah.
So, it is that running theme that people believe should be in place, but may not practically know how to execute it and to make it a reality in their businesses.
Yeah, I think that is the important part that we miss out. We know that we need creativity, but how to implement it in a large scale or even in a small scale if it's a small organizations, we miss out at that place. So
right. Yeah, and one more point about that too is that also too makes it much easier for diversity and inclusion. Because in fact, the more diverse a group is, the more creative they will be.
Yeah.
The more diverse a group is, the better generation of ideas, more diverse ideas that are going to help a company grow and meet the needs of the marketplace. So it really, diversity, creativity, and innovation and growth go hand in hand.
Yeah, that's a wonderful answer. And what is your opinion on, how do effective managers get in sync on the reasons, for pursuing a goal, and what is the best way to do it?
Well, this is a great question, and that really reflects the need for effective executive leadership. And in my area of focus, I help leaders become effective. And the key to that is tying strategy to time and tying strategy to communication. I can't tell you the number of management workshops I've conducted throughout the years. And I first thing I ask is, what is your number one challenge? Almost every answer, every time, is communication. And I go, what does that mean to you? Out of the loop, my leadership is ABC, always be communicating. Over communicate. Just when you think you've communicated some, communicate more. Because people don't always hear things right away. So circling back to your question of effective executive communication, it is, we have a strategy and we have outcomes. Every manager is tied to that, and they know that. And they also know what their other colleagues are tied to. So it becomes a collaborative effort and a collaborative sense of group accountability. So, in my executive leadership model, it's 3-tier leadership. It's not managing, and it's really based, on a theme of Peter Drucker. It's not managing from the top. It's leading executive leadership throughout. And if you're not leading throughout, if not every person in your organization is very clear what you intend, what the plan is as an executive leader, then there's going to be drips in your organization where talent and money and communication are going to drip out of your organization. I call it seeping. That's also where executive blind spots occur and where executives get blindsided because they're not leading throughout, they're only leading from the top. So every manager needs to understand their role and their team's role in exactly what needs to happen and how they fit into the big puzzle of successful outcomes. Now, that's the theory behind it. Practically, I do that for my clients through a blueprint. I have an effective executive management blueprint, where literally it is a dashboard of things to ask to make sure all managers are on track, and every manager has that blueprint and every manager functions from it. So the syncing becomes not only in knowing what the expected outcomes are, where they fit in the big picture puzzle, but also everybody's functioning and using the same roadmap to get from point A to point B. So the syncing is in the methodology and in the theory, and also in the pragmatic, practical approach of how are we going to drive to the new destination. So people just love this blueprint, because anything visual, by the way, is helpful for busy people. Instead of thinking, now, where was I? Well, I just look at my blueprint. Or, if you want to do a weekly update with your managers. Okay, so where are we in this? Where are we in this? And they see the blueprint right there. And they can see the numbers. They can see what I call KPIs, key people indicators. How are the people? How's the morale? You know, have you paused for the cause? Are you, taking a break to celebrate and to show appreciation? That's all built into the blueprint so that everybody can keep operationally working in the same rhythm and in the same format to get the best outcomes.
Yeah, that's a wonderful answer. And, there is a lot of information in that one answer alone. And, we were talking about leadership and communication. So we can't, go about without talking about performance management. So how do you think performance management have evolved over the years? And how do you think the future of performance management is going to be?
This is one of my almost pet peeve subjects, I gotta say, because it's interesting to see how it has evolved. It's gone from what I call natural to almost overly invasive. Okay, so because, and that was really a little bit of an introduction into two things in my view. It was the introduction of technology and software, and it was also the kind of management that started rating people. For example, Jack Welch was very popular for rating people, ABC. So when you started rating employee performance, that started going down. Initially, I think a useful way of assessing, okay, where is my employee performance? But honestly, I think it's gone way off the deep end. Because when you start rating people based on things that are not tangible, when you start rating people on things that are perception versus a tangible outcome. You can say in sales, hey, did you get XYZ goal? Easy rating. Hey, you're not being nice enough. You're not communicating enough. You're not being a team player enough. Well, that's perception. And then the manager has to say what area they need to, how do they need to improve? And a lot of managers who are not keen on human behavior insights, they don't know how to describe to a person how to improve. So I think it's really, it's heartbreaking when an employee thinks they're doing good and the manager thinks they're doing terrible. And there was, I was speaking at a Sherman event several years ago, and Marcus Buckingham talked about how misperceptions is really undermining performance management. So we've gone from just more natural, and this is, my era was, I worked for 2 Inc. 500 companies. One was number one on the Inc. 500 list. There was no such thing as formal performance management. You may have gotten, you may have had a chat with your boss and got a raise, but it wasn't like it is today. And then we moved into once a year performance appraisals. Many companies did. And then you tell people all the things they did good or bad over a year ago. Well, how useful is that when they can't change it? And the raise is based on it. So I think in our community, we're sort of like been there, done that with performance management, the less productive form, right? So, and there have been many companies. I was the MC for a talent management group. We did, it was all the CTOs, chief talent officers for several companies around the country. And there are very innovative approaches to performance management that were more what I call now organic. And that's what I advocate with my clients is organic performance management. It's embedded, it's natural, it's informal. And then you may have some software that can help support that. So to that point of where is it now, I think it's going to come back to the middle. Here's what I think. I think that once people understand, I think it's going to go down 2 paths. The one path is it's going to be totally tech-driven, where the technology drives it without the people using the technology understanding the underlying human behavior principles. And then there'll be a group that, and to the good of technology, technology helps to create habits and rhythms of effective management and effective performance management. So I see the value of technology in that. It's not an end in and of itself. It is a tool to create the behaviors that get the better outcomes. Then there's going to be the path of I'm not using technology at all. I'm just going to do purely organic management, go back to the old school. And I think there's a happy medium. I think there is value in technology. However, we should not be enslaved to technology. Technology should not run us. We should run technology. It should serve outcomes, not be the outcome. And so I think there is a happy medium. I'm up for organic, natural, let's have conversation. I'm trying to get out of consulting speak. I'm trying to get out of management speak. I'm trying to talk like a normal human being. And we just have conversations. And we all work together to get results. And we can track that and we can measure that in constructive, positive ways and enable talent to grow as the company grows. And that's the happy middle.
Yeah. So, talking about performance management, I have a favorite question that I like to ask all the gurus that I meet one-on-one, because I get a lot of different opinions on that particular question. And that the question is, how much recognition is too much recognition? I mean, how can you, draw the line where you recognize and you just prevent your employees from underperforming?
Yeah. So this is a great situation where managers need to know their staff, because in the work that I do, and most folks in my field, in our field, we talk about personality differences and that sort of thing. And there's people who like different kinds of recognition. Some like it publicly, some don't. And in fact, I wrote a blog post that really differentiates the difference between recognition, appreciation, acknowledgement. There are differences there. So it's a really worthy post to look at, because it's more than just recognition. It's about trust, connection, rewards, which is different than recognition. For example, one of the recommendations I make in the post is survey your team, and even do it on a dollar amount, $0 to $25, 25 to 100, big ticket item. What matters to you if you were going to get some sort of reward? And when one of my clients did it, you know what the number one 0 to 25 was? Time off and coming in late. So they got to earn like these come in late cards, which was really fun, or get off early cards, because those were intangible valuable things that really matter to them. So when you survey a team and get intrinsic motivators, things that really matter to them, that's very different than employee of the month, or, you win tickets to a theater, which that's not that bad either. Or, that Inc. 500 company that I worked for that was number one, our boss just had a massage therapist come in one day and just say, we'd been working really hard. We were working on some deadlines. He said, okay, everybody gets a 15-minute massage, shoulder and neck. How cool is that? So I think it's more about understanding each individual person on your team, surveying them, and then seeing what matters most. Hey, send me a Starbucks card anytime. I love Starbucks. It's the little things that matter. And by the way, I think recognition is in the little things. Okay, I gotta tell you, I know that we're timed. I gotta tell you this really cool story. So I used to do these creativity day camps for leaders. And one of the segments was about employee motivation, employee recognition. So one of the people in my class was from a very small town. She had zero budget for any kind of special stuff for her team. So in the spirit of creativity, and thinking, thinking outside the box, so to speak. So she was sitting on her front porch one day, and she was looking out at her driveway, and she saw these rocks in her driveway. She thought, my team, they just do they rock. They really rock. That when that phrase was really popular. So she gathered up some rocks. This is like, I almost get teary-eyed when I tell it. And she took some Post-it notes. And before her team came in, on every desk, she took a Post-it note, took a rock, said something specific about their contribution, and then said, "You rock."
That's so sweet.
And that took zero money. And yet, you know what? I have never forgotten that story, and I think I heard it 20 years ago. And I guarantee you the employees have never forgotten it either. Because it was really not so much about the reward, it was about the heart behind the acknowledgement and the recognition.
Yeah, I think it's a lot about, personalizing the recognition and doing it for your employees. Like the story you just said, it's the same as your primary school teacher who gave you chocolates on the last day of school. It's the same. So it's just, about the motivation and the push that we get. Hey, you're doing good. That
Yeah.
matters a lot. So that was an amazing story.
You
And
know what? It's funny to that point. There's still a little kid inside each one of us. That's why people love the creativity workshops. They get to play. You know, I mean, can I get a star on my paper? Some kind of happy face. Can I get a sticker? I know it sounds elementary, but sometimes we can surprise ourselves with the simplest, heartfelt things that can go miles to connect, impact, build trust, respect, and really honor our humanness, our humanity.
that's wonderful. And like we can shift our focus to a different area right now. And with the increase in the millennial workforce, we have the gig economy gaining a lot of momentum. So we have the gig workers for all sorts of jobs, like right from the lowermost jobs to the white collar jobs. We have people in contract. So how do you think this is going to fit in the organizational setup that we have right now? And there is an inevitable financial crisis coming up. So do you think the gig economy is here to stay?
I absolutely think the gig economy is here to stay, because in executive leadership, the one thing we function on a lot is uncertainty. And so uncertainty drives decision making. And by the way, in fact, I just did a whole series on decision making. Under uncertainty, really the underlying emotion is fear. So, and with this uncertain economy, fear of spending. I call it FOS, fear of spending, FOS, which creates fog in terms of fear, obligation, and guilt in terms of how you make decisions. So yes, the gig economy is here to stay. So what does that mean for company cultures? Because, and what it calls for actually is better effective, boy, I'm using lots of bad grammar here, is effective leadership and management. And this is a little nuanced, because sometimes executive leaders think that executive leadership is executive leadership only. They don't understand that it's executive leadership and management. That goes back to Drucker's leading throughout. You've got to know at every tier of your company what's going on. So in executive management, definition of manage is to handle direct with a degree of skill. So handling your business, so you got to handle the business by knowing how to connect and build trust, because trust is really the core element. It is the thread of every activity in business is trust. You have to thread and create a fabric within your company, no matter how small or large, a fabric of trust and respect, no matter the title or responsibility or employee status. And it's got to be so seamless, and that fabric has got to be so brilliantly and tightly woven that from one to the next, you can't tell whether it's a gig worker or whether that's a permanent employee. That is a reflection of the kind of culture or kind of relational interaction, collaboration that is built really by each manager and each team. But it's driven by and led by and demonstrated by the executive leadership. So typically in a larger organization, the breakdown is from senior leadership to middle management to what I call extended management team, which is second or third tier management. That's usually where the breakdown occurs. So effective leadership at the senior team level is making sure that at every tier that a manager is effective in building, and they're effective at threading. They're effective at building the fabric of their team to be, we use the word engaged, and also I want to use the word connected, not individually engaged and collectively connected are the two elements. Because you could have a very engaged individual, but not necessarily have an engaged team or a connected team. And if a team is dysfunctional, that's going to impact individual engagement. So you've got to have a manager that has the capabilities, that has the knowledge and the know-how to thread and build a beautifully woven fabric of a team that feels collective responsibility, a collective accountability to each other, which is going to heighten the individual and team engagement. And you're going to increase retention, irregardless of whether that person is a gig employee or not. Now, you know, if you've got folks that are remote, which is now more than ever, please know the principles of connecting a team are the same. The skills of a manager to do that are the same. You just have to use technology as one of the conduits or the tools to be able to achieve that same outcome. I mean, certainly it's not going to be, you know, us sitting on the couch having a chat, but it's going to still be what is reasonably possible for technology to connect people, for people to feel good. I mean, if you're an Uber driver and you get a text from your team manager, hey, great day today. Hey, have a great day today. If you got any problems, make sure to text me right away. I've got your back. I mean, come on. Just a simple text like that on a regular basis. A phone call. Hey, how was your day? Just want to leave a voicemail message. I'm thinking about you. I know it's, you know, weird out there. You maybe don't have as many riderships today, but hang in there, buddy. Or, hey, you know, it's the human touch that's going to make a difference in this economy.
That's a wonderful answer. And I think it's about the heart when a lot of humans are involved. So these were all amazing answers, JoAnn. Thank you so much for that. And, you know, just to kind of wrap up the interview, if you have any important sound bites that you would like to leave our audience.
You know, my heart is that, well, it's really about the heart. And not to sound, ooh, but here's the thing. You know, when I do a leadership training, I actually physically have a chart of human being. And I say, now it's your goal to process your goal and strategies through this person to get these business outcomes. And every single thing about this outcome has to do with the human experience that they have with you and your management team to get the outcomes. Their human experience is going to impact their behaviors. The behaviors, what we say, what we do, is what's going to produce the results. So usually an executive leader will say, hey, we're not meeting goals, we're not doing this. What is our process? What kind of policies do we need to change? The first I would recommend is look at the people. The people, it's the human experience that's going to produce what you want first. Then look, because the people drive the process. The people implement the policies. And it's people power that creates profit power. And really, that's where we need to start. And that's where the people acumen in executive leadership needs to really be bolstered so that we can then say, okay, practically, what does this mean and how we can actually improve the business so that everybody feels good about it. Let's all work together. And it's about mind, heart, and spirit and physical health that actually produces the outcomes for a company.
That's wonderful, JoAnn. You speak a lot about the human emotions and how human we should be at work and everywhere. And that's beautiful. I mean, that's what the world needs right now in this crisis and all of it. So thank you so much for that. And I had a wonderful experience talking with you. You know, the past 30, 35 minutes has been truly enriching for me.
Wait, it went by that fast?
Yeah, so I'm very sure our audience is going to love this interview also. Thank you so much for that. I mean, we have so much to talk about. I think we should definitely have a second part to this interview, you know, to have more on it.
That'd be great.
So thank you so much for your time and have a healthy and safe time ahead of you.
Thank you so much. Namaste.
Namaste. Bye-bye.